Good morning, Key.
Hi, Bailey. How are you?
Good morning, good morning, good morning, Tom.
Good. I just want to jump on real quick so I don't be late, but I'm going to fix a cup of coffee real quick and I'll be right back.
Brilliant. See you in a moment. Hi there, Tom.
Okay.
Yeah, hey Valley, how are you? Nice to see you.
Good to see you. Hello there, Daisy.
Exactly. I'm not moving. I'm in a parking lot, but
Oh, fantastic. Great.
right.
Oh, this is a pleasure being on. I'm super excited. And we'll go straight in as we start. So, and of course, you and I can touch base because I'm looking forward to doing that as well. So, yeah, let's see. I know Key's with us. She's gone to get a cup of tea. I know.
Yes, I'm here and excuse my rudeness. Hi, Tom.
Unmuted. Hey, good to see you. Or not see you. I will see you, I'm sure.
Yes, I'll be back. I just have to get some coffee.
Okay, so
All
let's.
right.
Brilliant. See you in a moment, Key. Great, I've got my cup of tea. It's evening here, and oh, you've got your coffee there. Fantastic. So we've all got our drinks. Well, we've got Ivan here, so perhaps he's bringing his hot, warm drink with him too.
Hello.
Hello, good evening to you.
Yeah, snap. Ding.
Yay, got the colours on. We got red. Yes.
Yeah.
Great. I'm super excited about this session. Good to see you, Ivan. As always, we've got, yeah, as always,
Hi,
it's
Tom.
yeah, we got Tom on. We will have other people joining. They did say they would be here. And
Yep.
so I'll begin by asking a few questions bef as we wait for the others. And today's, welcome to the bi-weekly Lead Rise session. This is 21st of January, and today's session is about Claude Skills. So we'll tie this a little bit with what we've done before. We've been talking about prompting. These are
Mm.
standalone sessions for anyone joining first time or they're seeing this, they'll know that this is a standalone session. So we'll talk about Claude Skills. Now, before I go into talking about Claude Skills, I thought I'd ask you questions about Claude Skills. Has anyone here used Claude Skills themselves? Am I recording? Good question. Do you need
Yes, I think so.
to? I think I'm recording. It looks like.
Yes, you are.
Okay, yeah, looks like I'm recording. Fantastic. Yes, it's been recorded. Is anyone, Ivan, are you using Claude Skills?
I've used Claude.
Yeah.
Claude Skills. I don't know what that means.
Okay, okay. Um, yeah, that seems to be what I've noticed with a lot of people that I've spoken to as well. And Tom, what about yourself? Is this new?
Um, same answer basically. I haven't used Claude that much. I've been hearing about all the benefits, but I don't think I've ever used Claude Skills. So I'm eager to hear what you're sharing today.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah,
Mm.
we'll dive in and then what we'll do is I put together a little quiz actually using the skills component. Now, and I thought, do we start with that? I thought, well, if we've got a few people who've used it, maybe they'll help us answer those. So we'll start with, we'll do the quiz afterwards. It's a few questions and actually use skills to create it. Hi there, Sharita. Good to see you on.
Peace, everyone.
Good to see you, Sharita. You're here. Yeah, we haven't started, so that's great. So the question I posed to everyone was, have they used Claude Skills? But it doesn't look like people have used Claude, but not Claude Skills. Is that the
Mm.
case with you, or is this new then?
I haven't used it.
Okay, okay. So this is going to be new for everyone here. And what we'll do then is we'll have a follow-up because there's so much that I've got two sets of notes or slides. One goes a little bit technical, so we don't necessarily have to do the technical component. We're going to start with the basics because that's for me that always helps me understand skills from the like what are they, why use skills and why not just use just go into Claude. Hi there, Suba. Good to see you.
Yeah, hiya.
Okay, so it might be that, oh, hello, hiya. Good to see you also. Good to have you on.
Hi, buddy. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Good to see you. Good evening. Okay, so Claude Skills does vary. Now, as I came across Claude Skills a few months ago when they sort of, they launched Skills, and it is different to when you go into the chat. Okay, so I'm going to show you how you can access Skills. And you're going to have questions. I'm sure you're going to have questions like how do you access one? How do you access skills? How might you build skills in Claude? Why even build skill? Like, what's the purpose of that? Okay. So hi, maybe it's new. It is. The thing with skills is that it is available. So most of us, I believe I'd understand you have Claude, right? Is everyone using Claude, by the way? Just double check because we may have some people you're using. Shrita, is that? Yeah, you're using it. Ivan, a little bit higher. And Tom, I know that you've been using it quite extensively for your work.
I'm not sure I'd use the word extensively. I'm familiar with it. I've used it a few times. I even with the many advantages I keep hearing about, I don't know if rut is the right word, but I kind of always go to Chat GPT. But so I'm eager to expand my horizons here.
Yeah, we have a tool becomes our go-to tool, and so we lean towards one, or it could be that we've paid for one, so we want to make sure we're utilizing the one that we paid for. So I know a lot of us here perhaps have created our own GPT, so you can have questions why not just stay in the OpenAI environment rather than come to Anthropic and build skills. That might be some of the questions that might come out. So, if we can just stay in the GPT environment, if I'm paying my, $20 a month, then doesn't that make sense to stay there? Now, and what you're going to see today, from what we're going to be discussing, you'll see that skills is packaged in a different way, and if we're thinking of automating, it's definitely the route to go if you're thinking of automating and building systems. And I'll say a little bit more about that. So now, so a skill, like you're probably thinking, what is this skill, right? What's she talking about? So skill is bundled, right? I'm explaining it that way. And the model, which is OpenAI's, beg your pardon, Anthropic's, Claude, so it can retrieve a skill, and you can have, rather than it going and utilizing the whole context window. I'll go through and I'll explain this a little bit more in the document. It will only retrieve what's necessary. So it's got the logic that's built into the skills, which is packaged. There's a format that we have to follow when we're building a skill. This is where the technical bit, but once we know it, it becomes easier, and it can pull on that skill, okay? And what's really helpful, it will, rather than utilize and have everything in the context window, we can retrieve the skill. And there's something else that I'm learning as I'm utilizing or wanting to learn more about skills. We're all learning in this space, is being able to then have it doing things. It becomes a bit like how programmers use N8N. It's coding, but doing the work without populating in the context window. So it helps us reduce, that kind of overwhelm. It can draw on a skill. There are certain inbuilt skills in Claude as well. But what we want to be thinking about as we're working and using AI tools, how can I grab that skill without having to, just have the whole context, populating the context, utilizing all my tokens, if you like. But all I need is that skill, and it picks up the skill. So we need to be able to trigger the skill. So there's certain things that we need to be thinking about. It sounds a little bit more complex than maybe I've explained it. I promise I'll try and simplify it as I go through it, because and people are going, what's the big deal with having skills? The way I saw it, having my former work was we would have a lot of documentations, like lots of perhaps even compliance or lots of modules. And I didn't really want to have to go through all those. I'd need to just pick out components within certain doc specs, and it can retrieve information um, without having to have all of that populating. So, for example, my PowerPoint slides, maybe we've talked about prompting before. So when, we don't have to remember, I know we talked about prompting, but imagine we've got lots of prompts and I've got a sequence or a flow of work. Do I want to remember every single prompt? Not necessarily, because it becomes cumbersome. It's like, where's that? Where did I put that? It is a learning curve for sure, but I'd say once we practice with it, we start picking up, there's certain things that we can do. There's something called fork. That means it can remember context within the converse in the context window without having for you to then having to remind it, right? You can just say, and it can do things as we do with agents. And I'll say a little bit more about that. And we can do that at another point when I also know more about fork, because that was something really exciting, because it could be doing the thing behind as programming, when we're thinking of building agents, without having to have it all showing in the context window. Like sometimes we have realms of things and then it dilutes the message, and then what it tends to do is it becomes this long thread of conversation. But I want it to do some things, and the forking bit is it kind of does stuff, and then we can retrieve it and bring it back into context um within the conversation we're in. And it sounds probably more complex than I made it, but it's what I've heard from my research is it's even like it does what we do in NA10. So Suba, perhaps you may have noticed this, or perhaps you've started working on this, but I'm gonna hopefully this is why I have these slides, because I think without this, it's like um, I like visuals, so that always helps me. Okay, and I'll go through certain points here. So hopefully I haven't sort of put you all off what Claude can do, and we'll go behind the scenes and show you in Claude as well. Okay, so some from prompting. So last time, so for those who were here previously, we were talking specifically about prompting. Definitely something we want to get really hone in on. And then what we're looking now is how do we build from our prompts to kind of how do we start architecting. And so what we're doing now is really upping the game, if you like. I believe in when we're thinking about skills, and we're thinking more from organizational kind of flow and era of agent skills, understanding progressive disclosure. And I'll say a little bit about that. And this autonomous workflows in Claude. It just means it kind of pulls or draws that information. So we are going to be seeing a shift in how we work with having lots of documents, so moving away from simply to, okay, I've got to learn everything about prompting to actually having this architecture that's built. And we'll say a little bit more about that. Um, so, the paradox of expertise, to be an expert, and AI needs a massive context, but massive context. So this is, I suppose, the what I was trying to articulate. When we have this really long context, it slows down performance, and if we're later on thinking of automating, it's going to increase cost. When we're increasing cost, then we what's happening is it's using more tokens. And what we're able to do with utilizing skills is we can reduce that. So, and also save on having to remember each time. Solution is the agent skills. It's when we think of skills, we think of it as a modular executable software package. It's like packaged together, and it knows what your skill, which skill needs to be drawn without having to remember it all at once. So it kind of dives into, if we're doing a presentation, it will know to go to a presentation. Then if I'm going into my compliance list, it will draw on the compliance within the context window. So it almost becomes like our library that we for us in our workplace. So so I'm going to go through a couple of steps here and what progressive disclosure refers to. So it helps. I mean, this is kind of some of the research. It does reduce time, right? So we've got a lot more efficiency. So the way Claude remembers what skill, it's given a name. When we were creating things like GPTs, we were giving it a name. And this time it's packaged in kind of from I mean, Suba's here from her technical background. It uses slightly different ways in which is stacked, if I say. We have a skill, we give it a name. So perhaps for some of us, perhaps coaching, or we've got compliance, or we've got a name for a skill. We've given it that name, but we've also given it a description so it knows. We activate its memory with description of what it is. And then we've got some descriptions. We've done this previously where we've activated it's kind of like, okay, this is what it does. This is and actually Claude can help us write out the description. So if you're ever stuck and if you don't know, if you're thinking of a skill, you're thinking, I want to be able to retrieve a skill. I do a lot of writing. Every time I'm having to think about the prompt, it's going to be in my context window. If I'm thinking of those skills, we take note of it. We're not sure how to describe it. We can get Claude to help us kind of have that description, just help us describe it. Then we can also label, and once it knows that it's when you've given it the label, it will remember without having to give it all the context again, right? Okay, go back into the library and it will know from the skill. Activation. So I started looking at kind of, are there still hiccups I will mention? I know that there are some things that I'm going to show you what I did with my settings. And so I started doing my research behind the scenes, and I was thinking, well, does it always get triggered? Are there some, when I say trigger, it's when we want to evoke it, we want to utilize it in the conversation. Um, yes, it will remember it. But there are instances that we may need to put in our settings that might help it guide it a little bit. And this came from my research. So as I'm learning, I will share more. But this is the way to save the skill. We would name it skill and we would put .md. So and then we've got zero context execution. It does the heavy lift and it analyzes within the scope of the PDF. It pre-written scripts. It doesn't read code, it just executes. So what we're actually doing is if you like, we're kind of we're building a system, a code, say, and it just draws on that. Let me see what's here. So from hierarchical kind of a way of thinking about it, if we're thinking of from our businesses, we might be thinking of, okay, top down, we've got security, we've got compliance, and then we may have things like, individual Claude skills, very specific to an individual's workflow or preferences, the way they work. Projects are slightly bigger because projects can have multiple teams in that, and I'll show you a little bit more what I mean by that. So there might be bigger things. So if we think of a project, there's numerous things happening, but a Claude skill has different components within that. So for example, the slide deck, we've got the visuals, we've got the layout, but the project may have other pieces, might have spreadsheets, might have costing, etc., etc. Thinking of whatever, or even your marketing assets. Plugins, we got the external tools. The reason we build in this way is we start thinking how the skill is going to be looking, and I'll show you behind the scenes. Um, so there are words or terminology that come across when we're thinking of how do we, what type of commands shall I use? And some of these we can ask Claude, and we can some certain words like type or trigger, use case scenarios, a function, right? Agent skills are, if you like, they are the model decides based on your intent. So, for example, if we are building, so putting presentation slides together, it will know that that's what your intent is in the context window. So you're having a conversation or you're in the context window, it will know from what it is that you're looking to do, right? And then it starts showing that. If it doesn't, then we need to kind of remind it. There are certain things that might come up but on the whole, as we're building, I'll always say start simple. As we build, we can look at maybe one skill. Does it recognize that skill? Specialized knowledge and you know, internal knowledge, right, for what we're doing, and all, of course, the agents. So, as we're thinking of a skill, I would like everyone to think, okay, what skill, if I was thinking of building a skill, what might that look like? Token budget. Now, why we might do this for our teams, it's pay for what you use. So, when we're perhaps, as we build our teams, we've got a number of people, perhaps we've got an enterprise package. A lot of companies are using them at the moment with the enterprise package. There's been a lot more. I think the kind of the investment that's gone into certainly both I mean, almost a lot of the models, but certainly Anthropic. We're seeing that a lot more is coming into this, so we know that there's going to be much more kind of push to utilize these models. So budget, token budget, why are we cautious of that as business owners? We're also, perhaps we've got teams working with us, pay for what we use. So stop burning tokens for the sake of burning tokens. In other words, as we experiment, yes, we're going to be utilizing a lot of those, but we want to be able to reduce those when we start up when we actually thinking of our agents, or we're automating, right? Whether we're building it ourselves or whether we're getting someone in our tech team, I've actually put a guide together if it's something that you're looking to do and not necessarily wanting to do it. Hand over to someone in your technical team. I've built a document which I can share. In a way, it's almost like this is what I want doing, but I also know I want to keep my costs down. There you go. This is kind of let's work together and let's hand that over. So I will share that with you. Standardization at scale. We codify our best practices into a skill. That's in essence, that's one of the powerful things when what we're doing is putting things into a skill as opposed to having them all over the place. So you've got a junior developer, or you've got someone in PR, or they need to look at how the senior person has actually put this skill, they can utilize that. Perhaps it's like looking at Excel spreadsheets. They can go in and that skill is sat there for them to utilize without having I know kind of previously we're looking at ways of working. Perhaps they've got it in a different file, but here this can be done using AI. So it can extract data, Excel. There's a lot, like I said, a lot of inbuilt components as well. So if we're thinking about it, we want to, and I'm going to go in a little bit more into showing you. So one thing that we would do is, as always, if we're thinking of building a skill, what is the thing that we find that we're repeating? And we talked about this when we were building our GPTs. What are the things that we keep repeating? It might be looking at marketing copy, it might be looking at certain scripts, it might be compliance, it might be those documentations, onboarding calls for perhaps even, I know we've got some coaches, we've got our sort of processes that we have, right? We follow. It could be something that we're always repeating. I kind of think about my own role where I was always repeating, and I'd have like document, I'd say, have a look in that document. But actually, if we put that document, it's easy retrievable rather than having to go through it, direct someone there. But so step one is to build the MD, which is to create the skill with clear instruction and proven examples. If you remember, these instructions are similar to when we were doing the prompt. We've got those instructions and we've got the example. The examples really help. I was in a talk yesterday. It was done by Kellogg's, their insightful leadership training. And there was a lot of research around kind of giving examples really help the models, whether we're utilizing this or where others, it really helps for the AI to understand, because it doesn't start making things up. That's the other thing as well. When we have skills, it retrieves that information from what we fed it from our knowledge base, or how we're retrieving that. And I'm super excited about it. When I heard about skills about 5 months back, I was like, this is really this is going to shift the way we run our businesses. Yes, GDP, these when I'm thinking of GPTs, I really like them and I still utilize them. But it's remembering which GPT. If you're like me and you've built lots of them, like which one was it? What was the name of it? Like, um, I just feel this would be a better kind of workflow experience. So, pilot, deploy 3 uses, test for trigger reliability. And that was the thing that I was saying, just to be mindful of. Does the model find the skill when asked naturally? Does it do that? And there was some things that I started researching online. I thought, is it able to do that? Mostly it is. And I'm also new in this, so I don't have like plethora of skills I've built as of yet. But as I'm doing that, I'm going to be testing, but I'll also be asking others who are doing this a lot more how they're experiencing. That's why I thought we'd share together and learn as we're doing this. So move from a personal folder to project, so repository. That's kind of like the way we're thinking of it. And I'm going to go behind the scenes in a moment. So rather than our role shift from just writing prompts to becoming like AI librarians, creating and maintaining hierarchical or skills. Our audit is what is our thing that we would like to build. We might select a candidate for conversation to skill this sprint. So we can even ask Claude to do it and see if it saves on tokens. Now, I am going to go behind the scenes and show you what that looks like, okay? Because as you're looking at that, you're going to be thinking, well, what's the big thing about skills? The way it can retrieve, how we can retrieve information from it is really powerful. So when you go into Claude, I'll go into that. I hope I haven't lost you because I know um, as we're building our own skills, and you'll be looking at skills, and perhaps some of you've started, thinking, well, what is she talking about? Don't know if you can see, but okay, the other thing I need to remind everyone is that when we're thinking of skills, we it's for paid users because as I was doing this, so we need to have a bit like having our GPTs. So if it's not something you're doing at the moment, so I would say learn what we can do with it. And I'll just go through what happens and how it's different. So we go through our settings. Okay. So as I was researching and I was thinking, well, how do we make sure that it kind of understands and the settings behind there because of the triggers. And so I started doing some research. I put avoid artifacts. So some of you will have seen in Claude that it has artifacts or code blocks. Only include artifacts or code blocks when absolutely necessary. I found um, um, because if we don't do that, it might start picking unnecessary information and says check for applicable skills, apply before applying any solution, always verify that the relevant skills are checked and invoked or evoked, should I say, appropriately. Encourage clarification. This is really key from the research I started doing because this is when the user, aka yourself, you want to make sure that it's actually drawing on the correct, the skill that we want. If additional context is needed, ask questions to ensure clarity and accuracy. This is key kind of component. So if you're unsure, if you're not sure which skill to evoke or, to rely on, then, ask questions to make sure. So when you're doing that, that's just part of the settings, okay? So, and if we're thinking of our own skills, so they sit somewhere different. So in the last few days, and like most of these models, what and you may have heard this also. So Anthropic have different capabilities. They've also got what they got core coworker. I haven't looked at that as of yet. Just means that you have like someone working with you next to you. Okay. So this is how you find skills. It's not in the chat. This is how you know skills that are repeatable, and there's documentation which you can learn about a little bit more. And then, you got your own skills which sit there. And then you've got example skills as well. So this is helpful. So for us thinking about our own brand guides, these are inbuilt. And for those who are programmers, and I know Suba, you're looking at this, and you've also got a skill creator. So what I've done is I've left these on. So to help me with brand guidelines, okay, I don't need this necessarily at the moment. So for those who are looking at perhaps MCP or building those, yes, you might want to toggle that cross. But for the purpose of saying most of us here, I think we're looking at the skill creator component, which can help us build those skills. And this is kind of looking at toolkit for styling and, like slide decks, landing pages, etc. So I toggle those across, and I kept those in there in the kind of in the memory. So just to kind of recap. So you go into your settings. I don't know if this light's showing. It's this new feature I've just upgraded, and now it's got this kind of light appearing on here. So I don't know if you're able to see your end. But if you go to the bottom, then you can see it's a pro user. Um, and for some people, they may just want to test it out, or they might think, oh, actually, I need to do a bit more research. I will share the guide I've got with you so you can go into a little bit more info or details there. And then you would then access it and look at capabilities and look at which skills are available. Okay, so when you're then building the skills, and I'm going to go into a little bit more there, and I'm going to show you how you do that. Hope I haven't lost you thus so far. It's a little bit going under the hood a little bit there in understanding what skills are. Okay, so let me show you a little bit more. So I found this. Um, Let me see where the other second. Um, let's have a look. Um, so when you've got a lot of documentation in Claude itself, okay, that you might find helpful, and I will share some of that with you. But I thought I can give you a little bit more information from here. So a little bit of recap there, okay? So it goes in a certain sequence, right? So you're going to see the sequence in which it we create skills, okay? Don't let this please don't let this put you off, but they bear with me because you'll see that once you get the hang of it, it's and and because it can seem a little bit like, oh, do I really need to be doing this? That's why I created that guide, because it is walking through it, but to hand over to someone who's technical. So if you've got people that you want to hand that over as leaders, you just want to say, this is what we need to do. Because as leaders, we really need to know and understand what that looks like. Okay, so extend Claude with skills. It sort of goes through how, that we talked about these slash commands, skill. So if we were to remember, we're creating a skill with this MD file name instruction. So it gives us all that. It gives us kind of like how we would first create, okay, Claude skill. Like notice it's a Claude code skills follow this process, okay? So it sees as the code. That's the interesting things, because it's, AI component here. Create your first skill, right? So for all of you who are looking to create your own first skill, okay, this is how you would do it, okay? And it could be, so if we think of example, create a skill that teaches Claude to explain code. Now, we might not do that necessarily, right? So we might have create a skill directly for skill in your personal skills folder. Personal skills are available across all your projects. So you will have those if you've been using projects. Write skill MD. Every skill needs a skill MD, right? That's the first thing to remember. Why? Because it has something called YAML. We don't need to know that necessarily, but I know Suba will know. And it kind of it remembers to kind of draw on that skill when we're having a conversation in the conversation window. It tells Claude when to use a skill and mark down content with instructions. Markdown just means when we have these asterisks, or it's just a format that the model understands. By the way, we don't need to know any of this necessarily, the technical terminology. The actual model helps us do that and create our own skills. Okay, so that's the magic. That's the beauty of like doing this, because we can get the model to do that for us. So if we were doing that, we'd give it a name. If you remember, we did this when we were creating our, putting our GPTs together. We were giving it a name, we were giving it a description, and then what we had were, you remember the instruction prompts, but instructions, right? When explaining code, always include start with analogy, right? Draw a diagram, walk through the code. This is a different scenario, of course. And then you might test the skill, right? So you want to open it in your in the window or invoke it. Okay. So it is so like I said, it goes through this step by step. And this is the beauty of it. This is how it appears. So I'll copy that and I'll put it in the chat. This is what it would look like. So you've got your overarching kind of skill. Then you've got the YAML here. And then it has it's a template, the examples, and you've got scripts that it draws on. Okay. And then you build it into this component. So Elizabeth, it looks a little bit like, oh my gosh, there's a lot there. Let me breathe there for a moment and just ask you questions, and I'll show you what I did when I built a skill in a moment. What's coming up for you? What's like the thing that you're thinking, okay, how might I use it? Let's maybe we can ask some questions. Did I hopefully you're all with me still? Okay, what's the process of adding or depreciating or versioning a skill? Suba, do you wanna say?
Uh, yeah, actually, if you have created the skill.md, which is the instructions, like we can say like a task of execution. If we want to upgrade or if we're going to debrigade the versioning of the skill means, so how do we tell it and then re-import it in the skill? So that's what I'm thinking because I never used that before, that Claude skill. So this is the first time when I'm seeing here in the Claude. I'm using it right now. I'm using only the free version of Claude. If you want to go
Yes.
to the Anthropic, it only shows these kind of things.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. I mean, I think so the rule of thumb is if you've got when you're building the skill, um, and there might be a better way to do this. And this is what I've noticed. If we're building the skill, you might want to create the skill away first and then
Okay.
have it as a drop-down file and then upload the file. You can actually build the skill straight into Claude if you wanted to. So if you can build the skill as a testing, if you're testing it, you build it there. So if you want and you've got documents that perhaps you're updating, it might be better to keep it as a zip file and upload the zip file. We'll go and make what we might need to do is do another session where we go through it. Okay, so we're building this skill. What would be the thing that we would need? Because then, okay, we need to kind of download and then you've got it saved in that zip file. It needs to be in that order and it needs to kind of draw on all those components, the name, the instructions, and the examples for it to kind of retrieve in conversation because it's magical. What I did, I'll show you what I did actually. Ivan, yeah, but good question. Yeah, versioning, process of adding or did you and depreciate. Did I answer that question? Do you mean?
Yes, yes, I can partially understand it because we don't want the cloud scale to go into the hallucination mode when we are adding or updating the any kind of instruction means. So that's why I'm just think okay, if we want to make it in a zip folder or update or debrigating the skill, the instruction, the task of execution might be accuracy.
It
Maybe.
the beauty of having skills, it actually reduces that, and that's the magic of it because it actually goes to the skills because you've got the skills embedded in. That's the beauty of it. There's
Mhm.
less chance of it kind of, how the model will come up with information just on the fly because it thinks that's what it needs. But because it's in taking that skill, it will follow the procedure. So that's the nice thing about handing things over to someone else because that skill is there. for them to
Yeah.
use.
Yes, understood that.
Yeah, and we just want to go into practicing. And as I'm building on this, and I want to start thinking what's the best case scenario, how to kind of put them into zip files that can be updated and then utilized. So if compliance change or things like that, all the interesting stuff, not necessarily, but that has to be done for us in
Yeah.
business,
It,
right?
it is on the trigger where when we give the actual name, it starts with the trigger, right? For example, what happen if any kind of two skills is partially matched with the same intent?
Mm.
In that case, the different kind of labels, the names, what we added in that instruction, that's what it trigger it comes on.
Yeah, that's a really good question because it was a deep. I actually started looking into this a little bit more as well, and I put this as a in that document in terms of might to get confused, not necessarily if you've kept a system that you follow. And if you've updated what happened. So there's all these certain things that we're thinking about, but we do that anyway in our processes, right? When we're thinking of organizing our files or the way we organize things as well. How does it know which thing to retrieve? And I think that is something that it will get easier. And I believe that it will get better when it kind of knows when to activate. So Ivan has a question. Thanks for that, Suba. Ivan has a question.
Yes, there we go. Um, so I don't have the paid version of Claude. So a lot of this is kind of over there somewhere. But so just for clarity for my little brain to wrap its head around, is how is this very different from separate GPTs? I understand the skill thing, and so if you have a really good filing system or a way of keeping record of what you have done, um, how do, maybe I'm missing something here. I can't quite see how it benefits. Um, how do I put this? The justification for another, subscription.
Yeah.
Um, I'm struggling to uh, find a reason for it
Yeah.
to motivate that decision to get another
Yeah.
subscription. Because
To
at the moment,
yeah.
I use GPTs quite a lot. I use projects quite a lot within the OpenAI world, and it works okay. It does tasks, which is, I guess, an equivalent loosely. Um, I can see how after a while you need to come back and revisit some of your initial configuration, let's say for a project or for a task. I get that because it'll pick up some stuff and might go a little wayward. So just from your opinion and your knowledge, just kind of bridge the gap for me, please.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's like anything that we are vested in. If we built on GPTs, we're like, okay, I'm going to continue utilizing this. The thing with the what gets really beneficial when we're building skills. And I believe that later on, it may not be necessarily now because we could come back to this in 6 months and I could build and behind the scenes, I'll continue
Yeah,
doing this, which would be really interesting to see. What I'm noticing is that when we're thinking of automating and we're thinking of, say, there's something called forked, and I've been researching this a little bit more. It means that it goes and does the thing behind the scenes, and it doesn't need all the memory of it. It can be doing the work behind the scenes like agents in NA10, and then we can almost like it will fork off and do the thing behind the scenes. And then we can still be working in the in our chat window, and it's going, look, I've done the work for you, here you go.
okay.
Right. So, why might we do that? And I mean, it's absolutely a valid question. I, it might be a preference as well on which model. Some people prefer Claude in
Yeah,
terms of the writing as well.
I
Uh,
would agree.
yeah. So,
Claude's writing is far, far better than ChatGPT. But then, the big thing for me, I think, is I don't think there's one that fits everything. I think we have preferences. I get that. We have a bias because that's the one we fell in love with first, and then the second, it's just like almost looking for a new partner. You go, oh yeah, you cool, but I can see there's some things I don't quite like here. Let me go find a new one. And you go back and you kind of have this little backwards and forwards. So
It's
I don't know.
yeah,
Okay.
it's a great question because we go into this, and I actually w did this. I was in Claude longer when I first started, and then started building
Mhm.
GPTs, then moved away from Claude. Well, when I say moved away, not as extensively utilizing it for writing and then what I found was I was going backwards and forwards, and I was using other models, but I then when skills, I was like, well, okay, I can see this from kind of from an organizational where I've got people working. I can see this being really helpful. That's kind of how I was seeing it with a kind of small group of
Okay.
individuals that really become something we could. And that's how I was framing it for myself. But then, okay, you're absolutely right. We have to
Mm,
think, where am I now?
mm.
What's the kind of thing that I
So I just had something pop in my head, and tell me if I'm on the right track or I'm just I'm on planet Island, right? So we have the Apple world and we have the Windows world, and they are two very different worlds, but do the same thing. But their approach to the same thing is slightly different. Is that what we're talking about here?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I would say from a programmer's, coder's perspective, if you were going to be handing this over to someone, um, then there may be a preference for a lot of coders. I don't know, Suba, you've been doing this behind the
Mm.
scenes. There may be a preference that they use or have. This is my impression that this seems to be the one that a lot of people programming, you're handing work over to them to go and automate this stuff. Then they might go, okay, you're utilizing this tool. So we'll probably get some info from Suba in a moment if we're kind of thinking about automation in that way.
Cool. Thank
Yeah.
you. That's really helpful. I mean, I hope I haven't confused people, but in my head, it's sort of making sense. So thank you.
Yeah, and the terminology is a little bit because I'm
Mm.
also, we're all learning, right? Because it isn't,
Yeah, yeah.
and we're all kind of in this space. Tom had a question, and then I'll say what I built, and I'll show you kind of it didn't take me long.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I put my hand up. I took it down again because what you and Ivan were just discussing pretty much addressed. I was looking for some clarity, and perhaps it's not even. I shouldn't say it's not even fair for me to ask a question because I've never created a GPT. I've never created an agent, and I keep hearing about agentic AI. I did want to touch on a little bit of what I've heard about the difference between ChatGPT and Claude, although you're by far more of an expert than I am. But I've heard friends, like my friend Richard say, ChatGPT is very enthusiastic and like whatever you suggest, whatever path you say, I want to go down this path. They say that is fabulous, go for it, and it might not be the best approach to use. Whereas Claude will give you some pushback, and which I shot. Maybe that's it. It tells you why I stick with ChatGPT because I like to be told I'm right all the time or something. But I am interested in I know on your slide you had the three different words, including agentic and agents. And I was just wondering if I have a repetitive task and you've seen the daily videos that I've been recording and posting on Facebook and LinkedIn. And so that has a certain pattern of doing it, making a transcript, uh, creating a body of text to lead in to accompany the post, hashtags, et cetera, and then analyzing results. And if I could send a an agent out on to do all of that, just set that daily process in motion. And that does seem a little bit different, like that might be a job for an agent rather than asking ChatGPT to do it. But anyway, I'm kind of fumbling here, but those are my thoughts. I was just looking for clarity, but what you discussed with Ivan is very helpful, actually.
Yeah, it's a great question on those steps. Absolutely. That is a really good case scenario where building that in would work and actually having someone build it for you, And this is the good thing. You could then hand it over to someone else. You're like, okay, this is what I want. I'm really clear now what I want, right? So that's the magic in kind of having that. I feel that you can have someone you can hand that over to them, and it doesn't need to be costly, and it doesn't need to utilize too much of your tokens. If they say, "Oh no, it's going to use that many," you're like, "No, no, we know it can reduce that. We know that it can keep the cost down." So I'm going to show you. So I ended up doing a little, and this was all done through Claude Skills. So I put together a little, I use the skills to, think, okay, I'm going to ask questions at the bi-weekly and we're going to, and there's no, we'll just do a little test run on it. And then I put it in to build a question, like a little quiz, right? Understanding Claude skills, a practical quiz for leaders managing high-performing teams, right? So I'm kind of looking at kind of what's the primary difference between Claude skills and standard prompts. So most of us will know that skills are faster than standard. So which one should we go for? Any guesses? We've only got 5 questions, so. We can say 1, 2, 3, or 4. If you remember, skills are reusable, customized instructions. So let me give you that one, and it will give us the answer. Okay. Next. Okay. So when should not a leader choose create a skill rather than use a standard prompt? Any takers? Do we have anyone having a go? Very quiet.
I would say number
Two.
two.
You say 2? Any
I
other?
I would say 4.
You're saying 4. Okay, when fast. Okay, let's go with the first one.
I'm a two.
Exactly right. Create skill when you have a task when your team will perform repeatedly that requires consistent guidelines, formatting and or approach. For example, if you regularly review marketing copy for brand voice compliance, a skill ensures everyone applies the same standard every time. So this is the thing, right? Because we want it to ensure that it follows the same standard. What are essential components of an effective skill for teams?
Number 4.
So you're saying 4.
Yeah.
I'll go
Spot
with
4.
four.
on. Very good. Clear instructions, specific examples, desired output format, and any constraints or requirements. Spot on. Effective skills include clear instructions. If you remember, you want Claude to do with specific examples, illustrate expectations, desired output, and any important constraints. That's an important thing. Maybe I didn't mention that, but the constraints is something we want to also add. Okay, last one. Your marketing team needs to produce consistent social media copy. Comes back to Tom, that matches your brand voice, professional yet approachable, focused on customer outcomes. Which approach would be most effective?
Number 1.
A one.
Okay,
One.
all passed the challenge. Fantastic. We all got 5 out of 5. This is like
Yes.
mastery level stuff. That's great work. So that's just an example of like, and the way I did that was I actually got Claude to do, and I'll give you some drawbacks when I was doing that in Claude when I said build a skill. It gave me the multiple choice, but the answers were all in the second format. Then I had to change it because it was all kind of in the same, it was all giving it the second
Mhm.
option. If you're kind of multiplying, that's something that the AI doesn't always get. Like, I'm not, no, no, no. We
Mhm.
cannot have it in the second instance every time. So I just change that. put it as an app and it became a quiz. And I just transferred it and put it into an app to make it a quiz. So in essence, Claude Skills. So hopefully this hasn't put you off having a go at Claude Skills. Please experiment. What I did do for those who would like further instructions, I have put together a guide. Let me see. And I've done this mainly for those who are looking to sort of learn more about it. And it's just it's a small fee of $27, but it goes through it's step by step, all the resources, all the links, but it kind of is something that you can hand over to someone else to do. If that's something you feel that will help you to build that. But like I said, I will be doing more work behind the scenes as we're doing this. Richard couldn't be here today, but I know next time he's going to be talking about something he's working on in the next bi-weekly. He'll go into a little bit more detail. And I know this is new, but I know when I'm getting a little bit of resistance because I can feel that sometimes when there's something new, I'm like, ugh. But that's the learning curve. That's normal. Just want to let you know that's normal. It happens. And because it is new, there's going to be a bit of resistance because it's like, no, 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 I really have to do this? You don't have to necessarily do it right this moment, but I'd encourage everyone to please think about some of those things that we're doing, that we can start automating. The idea is to hand it over to a technical person if you don't want to do it yourself. If you want to have a go doing it, do it. But I would, suggest that you give it to someone else. They can that can work on that. And I just want to say thank you for your patience to sit through Claude Skills. And remember, I'll be working behind the scenes and do have a go and please share next time what you're working on so we can let Richard know when he talks through what he's doing behind the scenes and he will be sharing his insights. He couldn't unfortunately be here, just messaged a few minutes ago and I will share. Hope you found it helpful. Did you find this helpful today? Okay. Ivan says yes. Challenging, interesting. Oh, you're welcome, Angie. Yes, glad you're here. Challenging as I'm stretched. I'm also being stretched myself. I'm like, okay, it's part of kind of our growth, right? Um, you're welcome. I will share the notes and I can share some more links in the email if you would like to read up about it. Beyond, it's early, Anita. I know, it's early for you. Yeah, we grow and learn together. Absolutely. Thank you for being here. Thank you for investing time in yourselves. Yes, take care, Ivan. Yes, I'll see.
Thank you. As a result of the stuff that we've covered here and a couple of other things, I am now a published author on Amazon. Yeah. And
Oh,
using a lot of the tools that we've spoken about, I've developed a partnership blueprint for business. But the point is, it's taken what has been in here for years. This has been a kind of um, a challenge for a few months, but it's actually real. This is an author's copy, so it's still how can I say, hot off the press.
fresh
But
off the press.
all as a result of actually using quite a lot of the tools that you've mentioned and some very late nights, kind of putting things together. And my wife and daughter are the ones that came up with some of the graphics and stuff. But all as a result of what we're doing here. So I just want to say thank you very much.
Congratulations. That's amazing, Ivan. I'm so pleased for you. Amazing. Congratulations. Please share the
Yeah,
link. What I'll do is when we send the email out, I can share that link in the
yeah.
email. Yeah, that would be great. I can do that.
I'll do that
Amazing.
business.
Congratulations. That's always yeah, absolutely.
Well, there's a link. Oh God,
Congratulations.
there's a hash. Lose the hash, and you can get it.
Amazing. Got
Um,
it. Yeah.
so you can download it if you want to. There's a whole rah rah thing there. Yeah. But
Amazing.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Ivan, and thank you for sharing. We want to hear more wins like this. It's amazing. Taking action. It's
Well,
yeah.
there's the other one. It's called Beyond the Hustle. Busy blueprint stuff. So
Amazing. Thank you. Well, let's share that and we continue building. Let's all share. That's kind of how we'll get to learn what everyone else is doing and share each other's kind of, work and that type of thing. Fantastic. Well, yeah, I'll certainly share that in the email when I put the recording. And thank you everyone for being here for yourself again. I look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks. Hi. Take it easy. Take care. Good to see you. Bye for now, everyone.
bye.
Bye.
Thank
Bye
you.
now.
Thank you.
You're
Ciao.
Thanks.
welcome. Take care. Bye now.